My name is Natalie Cano. I'm a cybersecurity engineer, and I'm also the founder of Race in Action, which is a nonprofit organization that supports low-income communities. Now, the intention for this video is to address some of the questions that I have been receiving from individuals in the past couple of months, from security engineers, from IT professionals in general, around how can they give back. And I really started realizing that as straightforward as it might seem for some people, some other individuals really are having a hard time trying to find an outlet, in a way for them to give back that is meaningful and impactful for them. For over a decade, I've been involved in social work. As a matter of fact, I used to work as a family support worker. So I'm going to be sharing a few stories that I myself experienced, not only when a cyber attack happened at one of the nonprofit organizations that I used to work for, but also the impact that it had on individuals that were supposed to receive the services. So this is many years ago, was my first ever IT job. As a matter of fact, I wore three hats. I was the program coordinator, HR, and I was the in-house HR coordinator. And my understanding is that we had a contract with a third-party company that supported the IT side of the organization, including cybersecurity services. 2 months into my employment at this particular organization, we got attacked with a ransomware attack. So I got a phone call at 5 a.m. to just go and verify the incident that has been reported. As soon as I got to the office, I log into the computer, and yes, everything was getting encrypted. So we go through the incident response process. I'm working pretty much side by side with the virtual team. Now, as we all know, in every incident response engagement, multiple meetings take place. Like, I think that's where most of the time really is spent, is the amount of meetings that have to, that have to take place. What I realized very quickly is that nobody, at least from the nonprofit organization, from my side, had any idea of even the language, the terminology that were spoken. Mind you, this is a nonprofit organization that supported critical services in the community. In a way, they were a sort of like a hub. So we used to support over 50 different other nonprofits that cover services for homelessness, for battered individuals, meaning domestic abuse, domestic violence individuals, victims. We also supported FEMA programs, meaning individuals that were affected by natural disasters. We supported nonprofit organizations that were assisting individuals with the developmental delays and all sorts of things. So just to tell you, I have been a social worker or a community support worker, to be exact, for over a decade, as I mentioned before. It's not easy to access the services on a good day. I'm going to share a few stories just to give you more clarity on where I want to get and why is it so important for individuals with the type of skills that you have, that I have, to start paying a little bit more attention if we have it in us, if it's something that we feel that, you know what, I think this makes sense, this is something I want to do. I really want to be as transparent as I can on what happens in low-income communities in terms of cyber attacks. So please feel free to skip because the stories that I'm going to be sharing can be, they're hard stories, they're reality. And these are just some of the calls that I had to answer to support individuals while they were struggling in the moment. So I had one that comes to mind is, it's Saturday, 5:30 in the morning. I get this phone call, and this lady is crying, she's screaming, and she's begging for me to go see her, for me to go and help her. The only thing she was able to verbalize, the only thing she was able to say is, I'm bleeding. Please come help my son. So I had an idea of the situation that she was experiencing at her house. I knew that she didn't feel safe with the partner that she had. She was also like her life, unfortunately, it was very, very difficult. Now, long story short, I get there, and indeed she was horribly beat up by her husband. She was assaulted sexually and physically in front of the baby. She mentioned that she had to, throughout the entire ordeal, she was just holding the baby, because she was so afraid that he was going to hit the baby. Now, the next thing I did, obviously, I assess the situation. I make sure that she's able to walk. I take them to the hospital. As soon as they're released, then we start the process of finding a safe place for her. So fortunately, there is the CA that provides shelter and support, sort of like an umbrella sort of support for individuals, mostly women, that are victim of domestic violence, where they keep them safe. It's a place that is really a blessing for many individuals that go through that. Now, her story is very impactful and is why I'm specifically choosing this one, because she's also a success story. This program, in less than 2 months, allowed her to find her own apartment, find a job that she really enjoyed, which is very sad too, in the sense that she was so happy with this job, and her co-workers, and this is just kind of a parenthesis because I think it's very beautiful. It was her birthday, and her co-workers just bought a cake for her. She called me crying because it was the first time in her life that her birthday was celebrated. Anyway, just to say that. Long story short, this lady was able to rebuild her life. She was indeed protected from from her partner. The partner was then prosecuted accordingly. She found a stable job. She continued in that job. The services, part of the services that she was provided with was childcare, which allowed her to find a job and subsequently move on and completely just pretty much change her life, which is a beautiful thing. And those services are intended to do that. Really, they have the capacity to change people's life. Now, in another occasion, I have another woman, and there's a reason why I'm sharing these. I just want to give you, again, I said that I want to be as transparent as I can. And the reality of low-income communities, what people go through. In this other incident, this one is a mom, and I just got a call, because yes, majority of time in low-income communities, the police, many people don't call the police because they don't trust it. So they call social workers. They trust social workers much more than they can trust the police. So that's why we get those calls, if you were to ask why they didn't call the police. Now, in this case, I'm answering this phone call, and very similar as this mom, and she's crying at the top of her lungs, and she just says, please help me, I'm bleeding. I run to her house. I don't know what I'm going to encounter, and I'm looking for her all over the house, and I found her in the closet. She was covering blood. Her newborn was also covering blood. She was so severely abused in so many ways, that she had internal bleeding as well as external, she had internal hemorrhage. And anyways, just a terrible case. Same thing. As soon as she's discharged from the hospital, we start the process to make sure that she's safe. In these two scenarios, one thing was a constant. The services were there. The services were there to help these people. She also went through the whole process of being pretty much the same with the CA and other nonprofits related to battered individuals. Now, I'm going to share a story which is not when the services were not provided. I have this young mom. She lost her job. In this case, it's not a domestic violence case. She lost her job. Little by little, she just started losing control of her life in a way. Very quickly, she found herself homeless with an 8-month baby. She called me and says, I don't have no place to stay tonight. So I take her case. We go to this nonprofit organization that provides vouchers for shelters and provide vouchers for food and clothing, and to support them to get back on their feet. Well, she was a case that was easier. She was a citizen. The baby was a citizen. As mind you, it's extremely difficult to go through this process, but everybody has to do it if they want to be able to sleep indoors. It takes about 4 to 5 hours just to get to see someone, just to have someone in front of you. So people have to wait and wait and wait and wait in these waiting rooms until they get cold. And in this case, there was no reason for her to be turned down. And yes, she was. So there I have a young mom in an 8 months baby with no place to stay that night. The reason that we were given is because they had a technical difficulty and many of the files were not available. They never said they were under some sort of attack or anything, but technical difficulties is something that happens so often. But again, from my experience, working at nonprofit organizations in low-income communities prior to me breaking into the cybersecurity industry, it's a real thing. In many, many cases, it's because individuals just don't know the basics of technology. As I mentioned before, the nonprofit organizations the nonprofit organization that I used to work for, when we got attacked by this ransomware, it disrupted all of the services. It literally halted our operations, as obviously that happens. Now imagine what happens for a nonprofit organization that's running on negatives. Nonprofit organizations work with extremely low budget, especially from low-income communities. So of course, the money they allocate for technology is very little. First, they don't understand it. And it's not until something happens that it's in front of their faces like, wow, we should have done something. Well, this is where I say many nonprofit organizations are extremely vulnerable to cyber attacks. And contrary to what we believe, they are targeted very often. It happens in low-income communities very often. Now, they don't have a way to mitigate these attacks. They just have to bite the bullet and in a way just move on with whatever left there is. And so in this case, when we were compromised, it took about 2.5 months to resume operations normally. During that time, many individuals that were supported through the services that we provided were obviously turned away. Moms with children that were looking for vouchers to spend the night indoors at a shelter were turned away. Individuals, other nonprofit organizations waiting for our services for their food bank. Everything was halted for many months. We were not able to provide services. Now, when you choose a low-income community and you choose to provide your support and your expertise and your skills to nonprofit organizations that provide critical services to individuals struggling in various areas, whether it is homelessness, domestic violence, just you name it, you are actually helping real individuals get the support they need by you making it a commitment. If it's in your heart, if it's something that resonates with you, of going every month, just once a month, to a nonprofit organization and making sure the firewall rules are properly configured, the servers are properly patched and updated, the endpoint systems are, they have the antivirus are updated properly, the softwares are properly patched. You can help to also provide cybersecurity hygiene workshops for the employees. There's so many things that we can do by just going once a month to a nonprofit organization. Every time that we provide our expertise to nonprofit organizations that are supporting critical services in low-income communities, we are directly impacting the lives of people that find themselves in horrible situations. I have spent over a decade of my life witnessing some of the atrocities that happen to individuals that unfortunately live in terrible conditions in low-income communities. And we, when I say we, is whether it is like me, community support workers or family support workers or licensed social workers, we literally depend 100% on the services that those nonprofit organizations provide. So when those organizations say to us, we don't have the services or we cannot help them, there's absolutely nothing that can be done. I literally had to go through one of the most heartbreaking, like I've had so many stories, and again, over a decade, but one of the ones that really kind of got to me, even though I've seen it all in a way. And the reason why this particular one got to me is because there was no reason for this lady to be turned away. As I mentioned, she was a citizen. Her baby was a citizen. She had all the paperwork in place. She lost everything. All of a sudden, she found herself absolutely homeless due to a horrible incident that happened. And the services, usually for cases like her, in a way are easier because she has all the paperwork that is needed. She's legal. She speaks the language. Everything is just there. So, and yes, she was turned away because of a technical difficulty. Now, she told me that that she had a friend, that she could stay at a friend's house that night. Later on, I found out that that was not the case, that she actually had to call someone that used to sexually harass her, and in exchange for a bed for her son, she gave herself away. And simply because the service was not provided for her that night, even though she had the perfect profile that would be a complete yes. But why? Because the service, they had a technical difficulty that they had to turn people away. And this is just technical difficulties. Imagine what happens when these nonprofit organizations are actually compromised by a cyber attack, which it happens. So I ask you, if you are looking to, if you find yourself in like, I would love to give back, I want to do something to help others, but I don't know what to do, think about nonprofit organizations from low-income communities. If you would like to be more on the education side, think about low-income communities and libraries. Go and provide workshops. What I do and what I've been doing for many years, way before, what I've been doing for many years is providing cybersecurity workshops for the elderly. So I go to libraries and I talk, and that's another thing that you can do. Just you can send emails, in a way, introducing yourself, introducing the services that you can provide and how would you like to help. But in my case, I found that just going in person, introducing yourself and saying, hey, I would love to a library, for example, I would love to provide workshops for the elderly on how to identify scams, the latest scams that are going around, or I would love to provide any educational workshop that you can think of, or for teenagers, cybersecurity concepts for teenagers from low-income communities. Look, I go to high schools. Part of my nonprofit, we have a program where we support, on the cybersecurity side, we support low-income community high schools when it comes to cybersecurity hygiene. But also I go to talk to the students to find out how much they know about cybersecurity. The basics that you would think everyone knows, well, they don't. We're talking about schools that have very little budget. And the technology side, even though they might say on the website, oh, we're STEM, the cybersecurity aspects that most people should know by now, they don't know it. So that's another beautiful thing that you can do. Go to a library from a low-income community, ask the library, I want to put a workshop for teenagers, and let the library find people, because that's another great thing about libraries. You don't have to do marketing or anything like that. They do it for you. They bring the individuals to you. Just tell them the time, your availability, but also consider helping nonprofit organizations from low-income communities, because the services they provide are absolutely critical. And when we help communities be safer, we're directly impacting the lives of people, moms and children that are fleeing horrible situations at home, or refugees. But again, if the services are not available because of a technical difficulty or because of a cyber attack, there's directly impacting lives of people that are in seriously critical situations, and your skills and my skills can prevent that. So this video is just to create awareness on that side. And I hope that if you find this helpful, share with people that might be in the same, that might feel the same way, that they would like to give back, but they don't know how, or they don't know where to start. This might be a good start. But anyway, with that being said, my name again is Natalie Cano, and if you want to learn a little bit more about what we do, you can visit us at graceinactionnj.org. And thank you for your time. Bye-bye.